All right, welcome to the show. Boy, do we have a lot to unpack in this one. So, a couple of days ago, the White House Office of Management and Budget released the President's Fiscal Year 2026 Skinny Budget. This is basically their request for the fiscal year 2026 that they're making to Congress. Basically, what they want the budget reconciliation bill that they've been working on for the past however many months now, what they want to see in it. And so I'm obviously very frustrated with this this whatever you want to call it, suggestion, skinny budget, whatever you want to call it, because if you know anything about my stances, my number one issue is healthcare. The number one cause of the number one cause of bankruptcy in the United States is medical bankruptcy. So free healthcare should be non-negotiable. It's a human right. And then I believe in free public higher education for all. I believe in revitalizing our infrastructure, high-speed rail. Like, we need to catch up to the rest of the world. And that includes not only improving what we have, but also just providing more public transportation infrastructure and logistical infrastructure, especially if we want to get this big, beautiful manufacturing base that Trump is stumbling around trying to get. And I also believe in a livable minimum wage. So let's see if this addresses any of that. Spoiler alert, not really. Right off the bat, they saved me some time here and just putting some things in bold. The budget, which reduces non-defense discretionary spending by $163 billion, or 23% from the 2025 enacted level. It guts a weaponized deep state while providing historic increases for defense and border security. This is the lowest non-defense spending level since 2017. Yeah, like, that's something to brag about. Like, it's so funny how obvious it is that they don't care about the American people, because all they care about pumping money into is military, defense, and border security, ICE, etc. But anything that is considered non-defense, it's on the table. So Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, Meals on Wheels, child cancer research across the board, certain health monitoring programs, testing our water supply for lead, testing our air for contaminants, etc. These are non-defense things. Cutting the National Weather Agency so they're launching half as many balloons as previously, weather balloons, so weather predictions are going to be even more inaccurate and disasters are going to be harder to predict, and there's going to be less notice for them, if any notice at all. So it's crazy how they just brag about cutting this kind of spending, and at the same time, and then they brag about increasing defense spending. And this was all at the guise of, at least initially, like, we need to cut down on the debt and the deficit. We actually want to start paying on the debt, etc., etc. We need to stop all of this inflationary government spending. So they cut defense or non-defense programs and increase defense programs by hundreds of billions, even though the Pentagon has failed the last like 20 audits and can't account for like 60 or 70% of where their money goes. Okay. Defense spending would increase 13%, and Homeland Security would increase by nearly 65%. Now let's read some of these proclamations, whatever you want to call them. End weaponization and reduce violent crime. The budget ends the previous administration's weaponization of the government by eliminating programs like cybersecurity and infrastructure security agencies, disinformation offices that targeted and censored Americans, eliminating so-called fair housing programs that waged war in America's suburbs, ending the EPA's unfair harassment of citizens over environmental justice directives. Like, you're just naming a bunch of stuff that was good that is just no longer here. Even when you try to frame it in your right-coded scare propaganda, it's like, wait a minute. But it's funny. It's always ironic when this administration says, we want to end the weaponization of government. For one, It was never weaponized against you as much as you would like to claim it was. You are a criminal, Trump, a lot of people in his administration, but Trump, and that is why you were under investigation and were charged on 33 felony charges. Like, if the Biden administration was actually weaponizing the government, you would be in jail. You would be in prison. That's a fact. But the fact that you are somehow president again, that just kind of destroys your entire argument. But anyways, you claim that you're ending weaponization of government while you're arresting judges, threatening to arrest more judges, threatening to arrest Supreme Court justices. You pardoned January 6ers and then investigated prosecutors that were you prosecuting them. You threatened investigations into AOC. You've opened inquiries into Chuck Schumer and some other Democrat, threatening J.B. Pritzker over like inciting violence when he just called for protests and bodies in the streets, investigating Dr. Fauci, and then your entire crackdown on colleges and states. The DOJ is threatening Harvard, for example, saying we need all your student records in, et cetera, or we're going to like take away your ability to even admit foreign students. Like, crazy, insane. Defund the harmful woke Marxist agenda. These people don't even know what woke or Marxism is. It's just buzzwords to them. Like, I can't believe I'm reading this depraved shit on whitehouse.gov. This is crazy. Every single agency across the federal government was engaged in funding and advancing DEI and other radical harmful ideologies, such as $350 million for grant programs to push intersectionality, racial equity, and LGBTQIA, plus programming for preschoolers. Like, this whole, who believes this? Do you actually believe there were programs in preschool, let alone school in general, just like programming the minds of our kids to become LGBTQ? Like, are you that stupid? It's like the thing where like in Texas or whatever, they proposed a bill to ban like kitty litter in the bathrooms because they thought students were. I feel like my mind is about to explode. So housing grants have funded activities such as an equity audit to reverse land use patterns that have roots in systemically racist policies in LA County and addressing white supremacy in the STEM profession. The budget ends all of that. Yeah. It's funny because all of these woke programs, all these DEI programs were meant to address actual systemic racism that verifiably exists in our system in many institutions. And also to teach people, hey, your sexual orientation doesn't matter. It's okay. We accept you for whatever you are. Is that so fucking hard to understand? Oh my God. And then secure the border. The budget's request empowers the Department of Homeland Security to implement the president's mass removal campaign and secure the border. This funding is in addition to historic investments in border security. The administration proposes to provide through mandatory funding as part of the congressional budget reconciliation process. The discretionary requests an additional $500 million for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to expedite the removal of illegal aliens through the support of 50,000 detention beds, $766 million to produce cutting-edge border security technology funding, and funding to maintain 22,000 Border Patrol agents and hire additional Customs and Border Protection officers. Why don't we, hire more judges so we can hear immigration cases quicker and have people immigrate into this country the right way, like you guys always harp about? Nope, you don't care about that. So, but yeah, this is where we need to urgently spend money. Fuck healthcare. This is where our money needs to go. And they've convinced so many people that this is okay to spend government money on, your taxpayer dollars on. But, oh no, giving healthcare to someone or giving some grant to provide awareness or something. No. Oh my God. Realign Foreign Aid. The budget ensures that foreign aid spending is efficient and consistent with U.S. foreign policy under the American First agenda. The budget reorganizes the U.S. Agency for International Development and the Department of State to meet current needs and eliminate non-essential staff that were hired based on DEI and preferencing practices. Completely made up. That is just not true. At this point, actually pretty much at any point from the very beginning, when you hear this administration say anything about DEI or woke, you should just wrap it up. Wrap it up. Like, don't even listen. You just know it's a lie. Like I said, these are buzzwords that they just use to scare people. That's all it is. Realign Foreign Aid, what's this, short-coded for more money to Israel and their genocide and less money to Ukraine? Rebuild our nation's military. The budget requests the Department of Defense builds on the president's promise to achieve peace through strength by providing the resources to rebuild our military, reestablish deterrence, and revive the warrior ethos of our armed forces. And combined with $119 billion in mandatory funding, the budget increases defense spending by 13%. But no, we care about the debt and the deficit. No, they don't. And what do you mean rebuild our military? Yeah, because our military is definitely weak right now. We definitely have no deterrence. Oh, God. Achieve American energy dominance. The budget supports the president's commitment to unleash America's affordable energy and reliable energy and natural resources. The budget cancels over $15 billion in infrastructure investment and Jobs Act. Green new scam funds. This is from whitehouse.gov. This is crazy. Provided to the Department of Energy for unreliable renewable energy, removing carbon dioxide from the air, and other costly technologies that burden ratepayers and consumers. How do you even read this in the right-wing Trump coding and be like, yeah, this is good? Make America healthy again. Budget request builds on the president's MAHA commission. The budget provides resources to the Department of Health and Human Services that would allow the secretary to tackle issues related to nutrition, physical activity, healthy lifestyles, over-reliance on medication and treatments, the effect of new technological habits, environmental impacts in food, and drug quality and safety. The budget also supports the creation of MAHA food boxes that would be filled with commodities sourced from domestic farmers and given directly to American households. Okay, no cap. That one sounds all right. But, like, you've already made so many cuts that just go against this MAHA agenda. Now, if they follow through on whatever that is about these MAHA food boxes to support local farmers, okay, and give food to people, all right, I'm not going to come out against that. But just why I'm weary about this is because they've cut cancer research across the board. They've ended testing programs for lead. They've ended general testing programs for water and air. They've rolled back regulations that prohibit companies from dumping toxic waste into our water supply or pumping various toxins into our air. They have reinvigorized the coal and gas industry, and they've ended several state health program funding. And then, of course, the proposed cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. Like, I'm sorry. Just because you do a couple good things here and there doesn't make up for the fact of the devastation you've caused elsewhere. Support our veterans. The budget provides increased funding for healthcare services tailored to U.S. veterans' needs, both at the Department of Veterans Affairs, medical centers, and the community. Combined with $50 billion in mandatory funding from the Toxic Exposures Fund, the budget ensures that the nation's veterans are provided with the world-class healthcare they deserve. In addition, veterans who qualify for access to care with the local community providers will be empowered to make the choice to see them rather than having to drive, in some cases, hours to access to the nearest VA facility. The budget includes $1.1 billion in new VA funding to make a down payment on President Trump's commitment to eradicate veterans' homelessness, the largest funding increase in the last decade. Okay, finally, another good thing. I support this. I am a little bit wary about the using VA funding to go to local offices. That sounds good in paper, but it also sounds like just a way to kind of transition away from having this public healthcare system in a sense for veterans and privatize it. That's where my concerns are. But on paper, that could be decent. I don't know enough about it. So we'll see. But ending veterans homelessness, that's great. Very good. Glad for that down payment on that. But I'd just like to see us end all homelessness. Let's be real. But hey, take the wins that you can take. Preserve Social Security. The budget supports the president's promise to not touch Social Security benefits. It also includes the sufficient resources for the Social Security Administration, SSA, to improve customer service by expanding and improving online services and reducing customer wait times in field offices on the phone. Okay, that is ironic and just a flat out lie, considering one, they have cut the phone staff or some of the phone services already. They are also reducing the number of physical Social Security offices by like 50%. So that's kind of what you've done is a lot different from what you're saying. Streamline K-12 education funding and promote parental choice. This, I don't even need to read this. I already know what this is. It's basically the budget also invests $500 million, a $6 million increase to expand number of high quality charter schools. Oh, geez. This is more or less just ending funding, continuing to reduce funding for public schools and allow that funding to be instead used to private schools. I could do a whole video on that, but for now, just make your own opinion and do your own research on that. I don't have time to cover it. Make America Skilled Again. Oh boy, the budget proposes to give states and localities the flexibility to spend federal workforce dollars to best support their workers and economies instead of funneling taxpayer dollars to progressive nonprofits finding work for illegal immigrants and focusing on DEI. Okay, you lost me. Under this proposal, states would now have more control and flexibility to coordinate with employers and would have to spend at least 10% of their MASA grant on apprenticeship, a proven model that trains workers while they earn a paycheck and offer a valuable alternative to college. Support spaceflight. The budget refocuses the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, funding on beating China back to the moon and putting first humans on Mars by allocating over $7 billion for lunar exploration and introducing $1 billion in new investments for Mars-focused programs. It ensures that America's human space exploration efforts remain unparalleled, innovative, and efficient. To achieve these objectives, the budget would streamline the NASA workforce, IT services, and NASA center operations, facility maintenance and construction, and environmental compliance activities. The budget also eliminates green aviation and other climate scam programs, as well as failing space propulsion projects. Oh God. Yeah. I don't know enough about this whole thing by reading it, but it does sound like this does include a lot of cuts to the NASA workforce. So I'm not sure if they're actually granting them more funding or if they're cutting workforce to come up with this additional money. I don't know how this is going to work. But yeah, we'll see. And it's also interesting because like Trump's supposed to be an Elon guy and SpaceX is supposed to be the Mars people. So I don't know. But, if I was in charge with just how much money we have and we give to the military, like 119 billion, just this go around to the military, I think it's 119 billion, somewhere in that range. I'd just give that to NASA and just see what they could do in terms of space exploration. It'd just be interesting. That'd be cool because they've already done so many cool things on like a budget of like 10 to 12 billion. Imagine if we just gave them 100 billion. Sign me up. Maintain support for tribal nations. The budget preserves federal funding for the Indian Health Service and supports core programs at the Bureau of Indian Affairs and Bureau of Indian Education, sustaining the federal government support for core programs that benefit tribal communities. The budget also weeds out radical woke grants and programs and streamlines other programs for tribal communities that were ineffective. Oh my God. These guys have like woke derangement syndrome. Jesus Christ. Like every one of these, it has to say something about scam, woke, DEI. Like, does anybody realize like this is getting kind of silly now? It's like when when Donald Trump mentions Joe Biden in every single interview at least 3 or 4 times. Address drug abuse. The administration is committed to combating the scourge of deadly drugs that have ravaged American communities. The budget prioritized drug enforcement, DEA resources on traffickers of fentanyl and other dangerous drugs that are driving America's overdose crisis. This includes redirecting DEA's foreign spending to regions with criminal organizations that traffic significant quantities of deadly drugs into the United States, Mexico, Central America, South America, and China. You don't care about drug abuse because if you did, you wouldn't have cut funding for Narcan and The way you can actually end this war on drugs and deal the largest blow to cartels and illegal drug traffickers, just decriminalize or even legalize drugs. Just do that. I know that sounds crazy, but if you could have all these regulated and controlled so you don't have these overdoses, and also along with that, opening more rehabilitation centers, more funding for help, whatever it be, because this whole treating people like criminals is just, it's not going to cut it. In many cases where you have drug users going to jail, they should be going to like rehab. So support artificial intelligence and quantum research. A budget amply funds research in AI and quantum information science at key agencies to ensure the United States remains on the cutting edge of these critical technologies development and responsible use. Improve Wildland. Firefighting. Federal wildfire responsibilities currently are split across 5 agencies and 2 departments. The budget would consolidate responsibilities into a new federal Wildland Fire Service at the Department of the Interior that would coordinate with non-federal partners to combat the wildfire crisis. Sorry. I needed to know more about that before I commit, because it sounds like you're going to take a lot of these agencies, fire a shit ton of workers, which I think they already have, and then somehow say, yeah, it's going to be more efficient now, even though we have less people and less funding. But whatever. And non-federal partners, are we like privatizing this too? Like more privatization? Anyways, before we end it, we have the House Financial Services Committee finds savings by slashing the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau budget. So I just wanted to throw this in at the end. This is another thing that they're cutting, have cut. This is an objectively good agency that has returned millions and millions, maybe even billions, back to the pockets of Americans who were defrauded by big financial institutions. So this is just dumb. The House Financial Services Committee has approved its part of the MASA budget bill, saving some $1 billion, among other things, slashing the CFPB's budget by more than 60%. Yeah. It's safe to say that I'm not a fan of any of this. And my question to MAGA is, why are you always okay with these people hammering the debt and the deficit and down our throats, saying we need to cut all this spending, which leads to programs that objectively help people or keep people safe or instill innovation through research grants? Why are you okay with that stuff getting cut under that guise, but the military and border security get increased by hundreds of billions, even though the Pentagon objectively has failed? I don't even know how many audits now, like 10 plus, and can't account for 60 to 70% of the money they spend. Like, I understand that you view the government as inefficient or incapable, but have you ever considered that a large part of that is because of what Republicans are constantly doing to any decent program that Democrats try to create, whether it's just trying to prevent further funding to that program, cutting funding to that program, or just ending that program. And then, surprise, surprise, that program is a lot weaker and, of course, doesn't perform in the way it should, making it look bad, making government look dumb and inefficient, so they can use that as an excuse to cut more programs. It's much easier to destroy a program or an agency rather than to actually build it and create it. Anyways, this went a lot longer than I wanted, so if you're still here at this point, thank you for watching, and maybe even hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that dislike button. Just any type of engagement's fine with me. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below, and if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.